Sesame Street. You've probably heard of this show. The Muppets. You've probably heard of them too. LEGO. You've probably heard of this company, as you may have a lot of sets from LEGO, particularly if you grew up in the 2000s and had gotten a lot of construction figures of biomechanical beings. Okay, let's get to the real point of this video. Jim Henson was a legend among puppeteers, as he had created various franchises that involved these puppet characters known as the Muppets. There's the most well-known Muppet characters who had appeared on The Muppet Show, as well as the various movies about the Muppets. And then there are the Sesame Street Muppets, a special group of Muppets who starred on the show Sesame Street, helping children of multiple generations learn about letters and numbers and shapes and many other things for nearly half a century now. Having grown up with both Sesame Street and the Muppets, I just so happened to have gotten the LEGO Sesame Street set and all 12 of the Muppet LEGO minifigures. Since they are both franchises that were started by Jim Henson, I figured it would be very fitting to review both of them within a single video. This is probably going to be a long video, so prepare yourselves. I will begin with the Muppet minifigures first, even though the LEGO Sesame Street set came out first, but I think it makes better sense to start with all of the minifigures and then talk about the big set. So the Muppet minifigures came in these blind bags. I've done videos about blind bag LEGO minifigures before, but in case you are new to these blind bags, the blind bags are these bags where it doesn't tell you what minifigure you are getting, but you could probably figure out what minifigure you were getting either by feeling the inside of the bag for the parts or by checking the bump codes. But I am sure a lot of people who like surprises prefer to just grab a couple of these bags without doing either of those things, and just find out for themselves what they are getting inside of the bag. I actually had done this with half of the minifigures in this series and only got a duplicate one time. The other half of these minifigures I had bought off of Bricklink, which is a LEGO market website I have shopped at for over a decade now. For starters, we have the main character of the Muppets and pretty much the face of Jim Henson himself, Kermit the Frog. Kermit is probably the most legendary Muppet character since he has appeared in both the Muppets and on Sesame Street. In fact, although I can place any of the Muppet minifigures onto my LEGO Sesame Street, Kermit is the only minifigure who can be placed here and look like he actually fits, since as far as I know, the other Muppets on The Muppet Show, at least out of the 12 in this minifigure series, have appeared little to never on Sesame Street. I think Rowlf the Dog had made an appearance in one pitch of Sesame Street, but I don't think he ever made an actual appearance in the show. The accessories that comes with the Kermit minifigure includes a small rainbow and a banjo, very fitting for the song The Rainbow Connection, which he sung at the start of the first Muppet movie. I think that after Disney had bought the Muppets, Kermit has been appearing less frequently on Sesame Street. So it isn't surprising that most of the younger Kermit fans know him from the Muppets rather than from Sesame Street. For me, I knew him from both the Muppets and Sesame Street, and it is for this reason I consider the Muppets and Sesame Street to be set in the same world. This is further supported by the fact that the Muppet characters who are commonly associated with Sesame Street had appeared with the Muppets from time to time in the 80s and 90s. Examples of this would include Big Bird's brief cameo in the first Muppet movie during the Moving Right Along song, the Sesame Street Gang's brief appearance at the end of Muppets Take Manhattan, their few appearances on The Muppet Show, and most of all, the Muppet Family Christmas. I think the Muppet Family Christmas is the best Sesame Street and Muppet crossover of all time, since the Sesame Street Muppets don't just make a brief cameo appearance, They appear all throughout this special. Although it does seem odd that only Muppet characters from Sesame Street would appear, and not any of the characters played by live actors. Miss Piggy comes with a poster with an image of herself. Miss Piggy has had different appearances over the years, but this is the one they had chosen for the minifigure series. There isn't very much else I can say about the Miss Piggy minifigure, and that probably will also be the case with a lot of these minifigures as well. Probably one reason as to why I have chosen to do a video that features both the Muppet minifigures and the Sesame Street minifigures, because of how there are some minifigures that I don't have a lot to say about. So, do bear with me on that. And speaking of bears, the next character we will look at is Fozzie the Bear. Fozzie's accessories are a banana and a microphone. These make sense since he is a comedian character. Gonzo the Great, also known as the Great Gonzo, only comes with one accessory. That would be this chicken. But it isn't just any chicken, it is his girlfriend Camilla. Animal's inclusion in this series is a no-brainer, since he is the most well-known member of the Electric Mayhem Band, and he is another very recognizable Muppet character. His accessories are a drum and a pair of drumsticks. The only accessory that Beaker comes with is this radio, presumably as part of one of those experiments that Dr. Bunsen Honeydew is working on. Speaking of Dr. Honeydew, here he is. This is the one minifigure I had gotten a duplicate of, and like Beaker, he only has one accessory, this experiment bottle. The Swedish Chef comes with two accessories, a mixer and this beet. I quite like how this beet looks. I even went as far as putting him in this food holder at Hooper's store on Sesame Street. While Animal is the most recognizable member of the Electric Mayhem Band, it does seem odd that if any other character from the band was featured in this series, they would choose to have it be Janice, as opposed to either Floyd, Zoot, or Dr. Teeth. My best guess on why they chose to include Janice is because she is another female character besides Miss Piggy. She has only one accessory, and that is her guitar. Rowlf the Dog has two accessories. One is this music sheet, and the other is this statue of Shakespeare. To be or not to be. The statue of Shakespeare has two faces on it. And the great thing about this accessory is that all you need to do to alternate between the two faces is just turn his hair around, since the body looks the same on both sides. I don't think anybody can imagine the Muppets without the comedic old men, Stantler and Waldorf. Stantler comes with one accessory, which is this laptop with Scooter's face on it, while Waldorf has two accessories. One is a teacup, and the other is this board with these Z's on it, likely as a result of him falling asleep during the time that he and Stantler are watching The Muppet Show in each episode. Now that I've looked over the minifigures from the Muppets, we shall now look at the minifigures that were included in the LEGO Sesame Street set. There are 6 characters included within the set, along with a few accessories. Unfortunately, I don't think I can list off all of the accessories included in the set, but I will list off the most well-known accessories associated with each minifigure. First, we have Elmo, the red monster. The most notable accessory that Elmo has is a goldfish bowl with his pet goldfish, Dorothy. Second, we have Oscar the Grouch. The most well-known accessory he has is his worm, Slimy. They actually included 2 slimy pieces in the set, since it is very common for LEGO to include duplicates of their smaller pieces, which is understandable since these pieces are so small they could get lost easily. Oscar doesn't have an actual body, however, and instead is just this loose head on a smaller headpiece that acts as his body in a trash can. Honestly, that sounded a bit disturbing to say, but it is what it is. Next, there is Bert, who comes with his pigeon Bernice. Then there is his best friend Ernie, who comes with his rubber ducky. Next is Cookie Monster, who comes with a couple of cookies. And last but not least is the most well-known Sesame Street Muppet, Big Bird, who comes with a pair of skates, and his teddy bear, Radar. Most of these minifigures come with the shorter legs, since they are shown to be shorter than Big Bird and the live human characters in the show. Ernie and Elmo have still legs, so they do not move, but Bert and Cookie Monster both have movable legs. Oscar doesn't have any legs or even arms at all in this set. No wonder he's a grouch. Little joke there. Now let's take a look at the LEGO Sesame Street set. Although Sesame Street is a show that was created for children, the set itself has a recommended age of 18+, which means that the set was made for the older nostalgic fans. Plus, I think this set would be too difficult for younger fans to build, and I imagine if a parent bought the set for their kid, the parent would be doing most or even all of the build. By the looks of it, it appears that it is a model meant for displaying purposes rather than play. I grew up with watching Sesame Street on PBS during the 2000s, and I can see that this Sesame Street set looks very different from the Sesame Street I grew up with. I am aware that Sesame Street has drastically changed in the most recent years. One such difference would be that the boards that surrounded Big Bird's nest is not there anymore, but the most notable parts of the nest are still there, such as his mailbox, radar, this picture of Snuffy, and this drawing of Mr. Hooper, the original owner of Hooper's store that Big Bird drew in the episode where he learns that Mr. Hooper has died. It is great that he held onto this picture for all of these years after Mr. Hooper's death. Perhaps the producers of the show wanted to have this picture in memory of both Mr. Hooper and the actor who played him, Will Lee. Another change that has been made is that Oscar used to have his trash can right outside of Big Bird's nest area, but he was relocated to the other side of the staircase. Of course, we also have the iconic Sesame Street sign at the end of the street. Such a classic, isn't it? Taking a look at the inside of the building, we can see Elmo's apartment on the first floor, and Bert and Ernie are on the second floor. This is very different from the Sesame Street I grew up with, since Elmo used to live in a different building that was close by to Hooper's store. While Ernie and Bert used to live on the basement floor of the building. If you look at where Bert and Ernie were originally, you can see a huge spider. I am guessing Bert and Ernie moved out to escape the spider. Bert and Ernie's apartment includes their 2 beds, Bert's paper clips, this lamp, this bowling ball, Bert's bottle cap collection, this picture of both Ernie and Bert, this dinosaur, Bert's cooking with oatmeal book, and Ernie's bathtub. Outside their window, we see some flowers and Ernie's window box, where the Tweedlebugs live. On top of the roof, we have this UFO, which belongs to the Martians. It is not attached in any way, just in case you were wondering. And last of all, there is this pigeon pen. I had mentioned Mr. Hooper earlier when he appears as a drawing drawn by Big Bird, and while Mr. Hooper would die, his store continued to be a part of Sesame Street, and would have multiple owners over the years. Following Mr. Hooper's death, David, who is Mr. Hooper's assistant, took over for running the store. Later on, a man named Mr. Hanford took over Hooper's store. And then Alan, who was the owner of Hooper's store I personally grew up with. The inside of the store, as shown in the set, is not very big, but I suppose it would cost a lot of time and money, and parts, to make the store big enough to be entirely accurate to the show. The outside has this food stand that has a carrot and this newspaper. On the outside, there is this table and one chair, along with a lamp right above the chair. Right above Hooper's store is this room, which I am guessing is supposed to be Cookie Monster's house, since there are a lot of promotional images that shows Cookie Monster sitting in this chair. This house also has a TV, a couple of videotapes, and a picture of the Count. Speaking of which, there are various pictures around the street of these other characters. Right above Cookie Monster's house, we have this air fan and a bat, which could actually be the Count. On the street, we have a fire hydrant and this mailbox. The mailbox, however, is not attached to the street, so if I am carrying this display around, the mailbox will fall off. The side of Hooper's store shows these pinholes, which might suggest that they are, or were, plans on making an extension set, introducing more locations on Sesame Street, although it could just be there to give fans the opportunity to make their own add-ons. Now here's a series of pictures that I took around the time I had first gotten the LEGO Sesame Street set built up. It mostly features the Muppets on the street as well, and I also included a couple of other minifigures to appear on the street as well, such as the Minions from the Despicable Me and Minions franchises, Princess Jasmine from Aladdin, who came from one of the Disney blind bag minifigure series, and the Mayor's Receptionist from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, which is a custom minifigure that I made, by the way. I may possibly do a couple of LEGO stop motions with my Sesame Street and Muppet minifigures at some point, particularly any sketches that featured Kermit the Frog. I am hoping that we at least get a follow-up blind bag Muppet minifigure series, because I would really like to get more of the characters. While working on this video, I did discover an image of a custom LEGO Mr. Snuffleupagus that was made by King's Knights. This looked so impressive that I went ahead and got the parts to make it myself from Bricklink. I am not sure if I will have it be built by the time I get this video out, but if I do have it made by the time I've edited this far into the video, I'll show some images of it. I'll leave a link to this mock in the description if you'd like to try and construct this yourself. And that right there is my review on the LEGO Muppet Minifigure Blind Bag series and the LEGO Sesame Street set. Before we go, I have a bonus story that I'd like to share with you guys if you are interested in listening. When I was a kid, I made this paper Sesame Street in my family's kitchen, and used some model magic sculptures of the characters for this paper Sesame Street. If you don't know what model magic is, it is a type of air drying clay, which from time to time I still make figures of characters using this stuff today, which you may have seen in some of my stop motion videos. Sadly, I don't have any photos of what this paper Sesame Street looked like, so the best I can do is provide these random images of the characters. The paper Sesame Street was standing in the kitchen for a couple of months. I do not know how long it had been there, and I had no intention on ever taking it down. But my parents insisted that I tear it out because it was basically getting in the way. There was room on the back for some people to put their plates down at, but nevertheless, the paper Sesame Street set was eventually hit by a tornado, aka me. And a new one was built up in the basement where it wasn't getting in anybody's way. Personally, I think the original was better, but my parents did have a point. Meanwhile, my LEGO Sesame Street set is on display on one of the shelves in my room, where no tornado will ever get to it. I thank you all very much for watching. This was quite the video to make, but hopefully you all have enjoyed. Be on the lookout for more review videos to come in the future. Hope you have a great day.